Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our January the 14th City Council meeting. Now call this meeting to order. If you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this afternoon for our invocation, I'm going to ask Councilwoman Coonrod if she would to say a word about Dr. Jerome Martin in his passing. He was our manager at the Glenwood Community Center. Councilwoman Coonrod. If you'll hit, does your light work now? Yeah, there we go.
You got it.
There, now.
Thank you, Chair. It's never easy when we lose loved ones and people that we become close friends and family on our job sites. But Dr. Jerome Martin, he worked over 30 years within all our community centers. He was there from every transition when it was considered recreation centers, to youth and family development centers, to YFD sites, to everything that you can imagine that it is. And so he served at the Eastgate Senior Center, and then he transitioned to be the manager over at Glenwood Center over the senior programs. And he very first started his career at Shepherd Center. I don't know if anybody go out there to Shepherd, if you remember the elementary school which was right next door. That's where I met Dr. Jerome Martin during my earlier years. So I'm just asking if everyone just give a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. All right, this afternoon we have, under special presentations, we are going to have a public hearing over the jobs pilot agreement for Novonix Enterprise South. So at this time, what I'm going to do, first of all, each speaker that would like to come to the podium will have 3 minutes to speak. If you'd like to address the council on this particular item. So at this time, I'm going to open the floor for a public hearing for the jobs pilot agreement for Novonix Enterprise South. Anyone that would like to speak to this agreement? Okay. No one that would like to come forward in our public hearing and speak about the jobs agreement? Okay, I think the company would like to come and address the council during this time. Sir, and I will extend the time if you need more than 3 minutes for
Thank you, sir. My name is Robert Long. Thanks for having us with us. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Novonix. Been with the business about 4 months. First of all, I want to thank the council for having us back in the consideration for our pilot program. Also, I want to apologize for any confusion or concern that a recent article about some layoffs may have occurred over the last week with the announced layoffs. That was not our intention to surprise anyone or provide any sort of information that was counter to what we're trying to accomplish. The decision to lay off 19 individuals was not taken lightly at all. But last Monday, we did let go about 19 positions across both Chattanooga locations, Riverside and Lookout Valley. The primary areas were engineering, certain technicians, and operations. The key issue that we were trying to manage was related to delayed timing of equipment and the related installation construction of that equipment as it relates to our recently signed revenue contracts. In short, the hiring of certain roles and positions got ahead of our equipment deliveries and that installation construction, and we needed to pause these 19 positions. We do expect to fully restore these positions in 2025. All impacted employees are receiving severance, and anyone that was impacted will receive priority for rehiring in these related positions. We remain very committed to fully complying with our commitments, be it on the Riverside pilot or this to be voted on Enterprise South pilot, but just wanted to take the time to mention that to the council, and thanks again for the time, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
We do have one lot. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Robert, I appreciate you being here. I had turned my light on before I knew that you were going to come and address that particular issue. The apology is appropriate, and I think the explanation is reasonable. But I will say that this council values truthfulness and transparency. And when we are looking to our team to really be able to deliver for us, if information is kept from them, that makes it hard for them to do their job well and to advocate for the people of Chattanooga, and makes it hard for us to advocate for the people of Chattanooga. So I certainly hope that this is a PR lesson learned, and that it won't happen again. And last week, I'm trying to think which of my colleagues, I believe it might have been Councilwoman Coonrod, that was, someone was really taking apart the employee codes that would be, or the employee numbers that would be assigned to one location versus the other. And it's critical for this council that the jobs that are brand new jobs that would be created as part of this pilot are at the new location, not double counted.
For sure.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
All right. Councilman Smith.
Time's up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Long, same. I appreciate it. I'm glad you came forward. I'm sure you were advised it'd probably be a pretty good idea to just lay it out the way that it was. And I do appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the explanation. And from a business standpoint, I get it 100%. It makes perfect sense. Unfortunately, I've had to make some of those difficult decisions in my career as well. However, you're up here before this body asking for something called a jobs pilot after just laying people off. It's a bad look. It's bad faith. It creates a matter of distrust. We are looking at upwards of $1 billion tax incentive pilot, but 19 jobs was too much of a financial burden. That's a problem for me. That's a problem for my faith in how the organization and how decisions are being made. I need to know that there are assurances that while I get it from a business perspective, this is not just business, these are tax incentives we're talking about here. And when they are tied to people being employed, I have a really, really hard time knowing and trusting moving forward that good decisions will be made so that we aren't laying people off, that we are telling our constituents and justifying a pilot like this is to create jobs, but you might get laid off. And so I don't know how good of answer there may be to that right now, Mr. Long. Again, I appreciate the reasoning, but I have a really hard time with understanding the business side of this and how that decision could possibly be made, if no other reason than the reason you're here today before this body. It's shocking to me. And so, just got to be honest, it raises serious concern. I am 100% supportive of this company and have been since the first day you guys came for us. But this just creates an incredible bad taste, and to me, just not good faith in what you're asking this body to believe in moving forward. So again, there's not a specific question there. I just needed to get it out. I've been thinking about it since the article first came out, and plenty of people sitting behind you have heard me and heard from me since the day that came out. So I need to say it. I honestly don't know where I'm at right now because of it. So I'm still thinking through it. But again, it's a difficult place for you to stand right there and tell us what you had to tell us. And so please don't take my comments that way. But this is business. This is the business you're in. And this is a huge ask of the people of Chattanooga, including potentially those 19 if they were residents.
No, I understand. Thank you, again, for the time, and we fully understand, and it's why I wanted to come and be here and apologize to the council for the surprise, but point well taken and understand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilwoman, that was my cross-employment question last week.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And it was a valid question because when we're counting in numbers, and especially what we saw, obviously, in the paper, unfortunately, most people will probably only get that headline, Mr. Long, and that's where we get put into a very tiny box when we're considering financial incentives. So I would like to ask, on good faith, because I think that's about all we can do at this point, is that we have a little bit more reporting on that situation, number one. But I would like to ask if we were able to clear up any language in the contract that specifically referred to staying with the EIN that the pilot would be assigned to. I don't know if you can address that here or if that's something, Mark, I don't know if Mark is here. Is that something you all can address, your attorneys? But it was an item of concern that we made sure. And I think that obviously what happened is, kind of raised the awareness level.
I'll get with Mark. We'll make sure that's clear.
Okay. And let me echo the concerns I think we all have when we saw that the timing, couldn't have been any worse, obviously. But your explanation I do find reasonable because I'm a business owner. I understand these things. But again, when we're performing or an ask of such magnitude, it is incredible that trust and faith be first and foremost.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, Mr. Long, thank you. I don't see any other lights.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
All right, not seeing any other people that would like to speak, I will now close this public hearing, and we will move on with our order of business. At this time, I'll ask for a motion for the minutes. Okay, with no objections, the minutes will stand as recorded. Council, if you would take a look at this week's agenda and let me know if you have any concerns over items under final reading. Let me go back and say this before we get too far into this. We will need an attorney-client privilege meeting during our recess this afternoon. We do have under committee or departmental reports, we've got a police department report, affordable housing committee, and a budget and finance committee. So any item that might fall under any of those committee, we'll cover them during that time. All right, moving into first reading, ordinances under first reading. We have one under economic development, one under public works, and then we do have several items under first reading for planning this afternoon. Councilman Hester.
For planning this evening, item 0193, I'm going to defer it to 211. The neighborhood still have questions, a lot of concerns about that development. And item 0196, after talking to Alan Jones and talking to the business owner, I think we'll go ahead with that one.
Move forward with that.
0196.
0196.
Correct. Yes, sir.
I've made a note on 0193 that you will ask for deferral. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Dotley.
Yes, I had a question about the item under economic development, item B, in regards to the pilot policies. I did email the wonderful Sharita today, but I know it was late. I know it's at like 2 o'clock. Oh, it's Jermaine. Oh,
Hold on 1 second.
That's the 2 week one? Okay. Want me to go to
But that's under resolutions. We haven't got there yet.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry,
Just-
Jermaine. And I was excited to talk to Sharita too. But I'll
Hold
be
the
back.
phone, Jermaine.
Yeah, I'm coming back.
We'll get you back up here. No, I mean, later.
Later.
We're under ordinances right now.
Yeah.
At least I think we are. Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you. Item B under Public Works should not be on this agenda.
Yes, that's correct.
This was deferred 2 weeks last week. It should not appear on our agenda again until the 21st. However, at that point, I do anticipate we will defer it again. We're in negotiations about conservation easement, which is exciting.
Mr. Attorney, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Well, no, that was all about item B.
Yeah, Mr. Attorney, can we get a revised agenda that has B removed? Because as Councilwoman Hill has correctly stated, this item was deferred to the 21st. It should not be on this week's agenda.
Yes.
We covered that at the 9:30, but apparently wasn't taken care of.
Yeah, it looks like we got the 10th or 2. I think there's a later version, but I'll double check.
Okay, thank you.
And then item C in North Chattanooga, the planning item C, we are going to withdraw that. I've spoken with the applicant and we're going to withdraw it. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments under planning items for this evening? All right, I am not seeing any lights. We'll now move to resolutions. Councilwoman Dotley. Under resolutions, we have one resolution for council office, then under economic development. Is that the one that you wanted to address?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilwoman Dotley.
All right, I just had a couple of questions in regards to the pilot policies. I know we had a great presentation yesterday. Hello, Jermaine, again.
Hello.
So I just had a couple of questions and a couple of recommended amendments. So the first was Section 1 dealing with delegating authority. And I believe Councilman Smith as well as Chair Henderson mentioned removing some of that authority from council, which of course I'm not a fan of. It's good to have checks and balances. So in this section, it notes that the city council will only review pilots that did not meet the policy. And I would like for this to reflect the city council's current standard of reviewing all pilots as opposed to just reviewing here and there ones that don't meet that. And although it seems a slightly, it'll extend the process, it's necessary to this is a necessary step to ensure we are being good fiscal sponsors, good fiscal stewards of taxpayer dollars, and provides the necessary checks and balances for these types of incentives. So I would like that to be added so that it's not just a pop-up pilot, but we are reviewing all those pilots. The second question had to do with clawback language in Section 5. And just could you add that a copy of the annual form and/or report will be provided to the city council so that we can review those, so we don't have to keep asking, since I know I got here in 2021, how well are they doing, and we never get an answer. Then also for Section 5 for the clawback language, the section states that an applicant's pilot incentive would be proportionately reduced if they fail to meet any of the criteria. Could you clarify what is meant by proportionately? Like, is it on a matrix, is it on a scale based on what they said they were gonna do?
Yes, so, let's say that if a company only created 50% of the jobs that they committed to by a certain period of time, then the incentive would be reduced by 50%. That's typically what is meant by, when we use that type of language. And I was gonna add that, given the feedback that we got from the city council last week, we would actually ask to defer this item for 2 weeks so that we can continue to give feedback from each of the council members. I know I've had conversations with several of you in which you all have had different ideas on, and it sounds like there's a tremendous amount of support for the creation of a policy, but you just want to make sure that the city council remains involved and included in the process. And we want to be collaborative, and we want to bring you a policy that you can be proud of.
All right, thank you, Jermaine. I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a follow-up from last week in regards to current performance of our pilots. What are the current net financial and employment gains to the city from previous pilots, especially given the note from today regarding the bonding? So do y'all have that or something y'all be able to share?
We can give you a report.
Okay.
Yep.
That works. That's all I got.
Okay.
Hang on,
Thank you,
Chief.
Jermaine.
Yes.
Councilman Ledford, question for Chief?
Yes,
on
sir,
the pilot?
thank you. Thank you. Hey, Chief, last week I had suggested that we look at a revised procedure process speeding up, especially in relation to transactionable pilots.
Right.
Is that an avenue we're pursuing?
Yes, and so what we want to do in response to, I think, feedback that I've gotten from multiple members of the council is how do we create a system whereby it allows the city council to retain its authority. There is no delegation, but there is sort of a faster, smoother process that is more streamlined, which I think which sounds, based on my conversations with each council person, as if like something that you all could be supportive of. That's what we're working on.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Yes.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you. Hey, Chief, just to make sure that you've got that time, can you state again, this is an item that you are asking for a deferral, you said for 2 weeks? So
for 2 weeks.
So were we set for January 28th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear that that was the request. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chief, I think that's all the lots. Thank you, sir. And
Okay.
I appreciate you working with this council.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right, moving on down our resolutions, we have finance, public works, and police. Any questions or comments concerning any of those items? If not, if you will flip on over to January 21st proposed agenda. Of course, all of our items on first read this week will be final read next week. And we have no ordinances on first reading, which takes us through resolutions, or takes us down to resolutions. Any questions under resolutions? We have a council appointment, economic development, mayor has an appointment, and then a special exemption permit. And then I think the police department's wanting to donate some Harley Davidsons. You've got one for me, Chief? I'll take one if you give them out. Any questions on any of those resolutions? If not, if you'll look at your purchase items, proposed purchase items for this week, any questions or comments concerning any of the proposed purchase items? Okay. Turning to future considerations. Any questions or comments concerning any items on future considerations? We have economic development, finance, family justice center, and then the mayor's office. Any questions there? Okay. All right. If no other questions about our agendas, we're going to start off with our departmental reports. Chief, you want to come give us your report? And I think this report has to do with the basically gathering information from our accident that we had on I-24 and trying to come up with some solutions to mitigate
Yes, sir.
the length of time that actually took.
Absolutely. And this is in reference to a crash that we had at about 7:15 in the morning. I believe it was in the month of October on I-24 coming into Chattanooga. During this crash, there was an 18-wheeler that had overturned. It was actually full of corn dogs, I believe it was. As the recovery company came on scene and tried to upright the vehicle because it flipped on its side, the trailer tore in half and all of the contents spilled out onto the interstate. So because of that, we had to narrow the lanes down to just one single lane, which created a significant backup throughout all of the Lookout Valley community and then also down into Georgia as well. Understanding that Lookout Valley in and of itself is an island. I mean, it has its own complex issues because essentially there are two ways in and two ways out when it comes to any type of true normal traffic pattern. So you have Cummings Highway and then you have I-24. When I-24 becomes an issue, then everyone spills onto Cummings Highway, which has its own issues with our abilities, especially for semi-trucks to be able to traverse through that area due to several factors. So that particular crash, it took over 7 hours to clear. And it shut schools down, it shut neighborhoods down. It created some significant concerns, not to mention the fact of the inability for emergency vehicles to be able to get to and from very quickly. So after that realization of some of those shortcomings, we got with our other law enforcement partners, as well as Hamilton County, which includes Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, Tennessee Highway Patrol, Tennessee Department of Transportation, Chattanooga's Department of Transportation, Georgia State Patrol, as well as Dade County Sheriff's Office. Because as you realize, before you get to the Cummings Highway exit, the only other possible route is I-59 down into Georgia, which that's where Georgia State Patrol and Dade County come in. The objective was for us to brainstorm together to try and figure out, what are the solutions? What are the possibilities given our limitations? We can't create a new road. There's not any ferries coming in anytime soon to ferry vehicles across the river, so that's not going to be an option. It was actually a very productive meeting, and what we realized is that TDOT actually has some capabilities that we weren't aware of, and we needed to get with the city attorney just to make sure a few things were actually plausible for us. What it boils down to is TDOT actually has equipment where they can push, pull, or drag any type of vehicle there is for as long as we need to get it to a point where we can get it off the roadway. And in short order, when we have another crash, because this is not an if situation, this is just a when, that is going to be the plan, is the officers on the scene. We also now made it part of our practice that one of our traffic unit supervisors will respond up there to assess the situation. And once that is determined that that's going to be the best option, and that's primarily going to hinge on the time of day. So if this is going to be a rush hour morning or evening situation, it is vital to get that area back opened up as quickly as possible. So therefore, when it comes to a vehicle like that on its side, there's not a concern about the loss or the damage. You're not going to damage that vehicle any more than what it already is from the recovery. So we would then, TDOT would send us the equipment that's necessary to be able to make that type of move, no matter how long it is. Because I showed the overhead and kind of explained where this sat. We were about a mile, maybe just less than a mile from the nearest area where you could have actually got this off the roadway. And they said, no problem. They didn't bat an eye at it. So unfortunately, we didn't have that knowledge at the time, which that's the value of meetings like this, is getting in front of them and having some of their supervisors talk with us to say, yes, this is something that we can do if you ask us. So that is the plan. The plan, it sounds rudimentary, but we feel like it is going to be very effective in that the key is to getting the roadways open, no matter what that looks like. So that will be the call. The supervisor will respond on the scene, assess the situation. If that's the most expedient way to deal with that, then that's what's going to happen. TDOT will send equipment, whatever equipment is needed. They will drag, push, or pull whatever vehicles are in the middle of the roadway, to include whatever they may be carrying, over to the side. At that point in time, there'll be a decision made on what does the actual recovery look like with the recovery company, because it is an option for us to leave it there. And that is what it will be discussed by the supervision on the scene. And that leadership will determine, is it most prudent for us to leave the wreckage on the side of the road until such time as traffic subsides, and then we have a safer way to be able to get the stuff off of the side of the road. And that may mean, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. If that's the case, then that's just the case. So that is the actual plan. It's like I said, it's rudimentary, but we feel like it's extremely effective, and it's also things that we have direct control over. We're not waiting on someone else's approval to do this or that. TDOT's already said they can do this. We've checked with city attorneys. There's no concern on our end from a liability or loss standpoint. So we're going to move their stuff out of the roadway so that we can get to and from. There's a couple follow-ups as an absolute worst case scenario where, for some reason, there's, whatever Armageddon looks like for I-24 in that situation, when we do have to redirect traffic. And this is something that would require a lot more logistics on our side, but everyone in the room was willing to participate. And so THP would station a trooper at the exit 155, to reroute traffic coming in to Highway 111. There are electronic signage just before that area, which they would be able to control that to let everyone know what's going on here to reroute traffic at 111. The next stop, GSP would set up at the I-59 split to then try and reroute traffic that way as much as possible. Now, the limitations we have are legal. We cannot force vehicles to exit, and we cannot force vehicles to stay on the interstate. We don't have the authority, neither does THP or GSP. That's outside of our scope of authority. So we're not able to do that. So we do recognize that would provide limited relief in that area, but it is a worst-case scenario Plan B. There is something also that I would like to present to council as something maybe for conversation as we're approaching the budget year. And that is, Georgia currently has it's called a TRIP. So it's Towing and Recovery Incentive Program, where they have financial incentives for their tow companies to make these types of recoveries based on a time frame. If you get it cleared up within 30 minutes, within an hour, within a hour and a half, within 2 hours, whatever that scale looks like, then there's financial incentives for that company to do that. So that's something that if council would like us to explore that further, we could definitely have those conversations and see what that would look like.
All right. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. Chief, I appreciate the work that you've done, and Chairman Henderson, thank you so much for requesting that this work be dug into. It's clearly very important, and we had low-hanging fruit, which is really useful to know. A word about the rerouting to 111 and to 59, the fact that we can't require, obviously, someone to reroute, but might there be signage that could imply impending Armageddon were you to go on? We've got some good signage. Could it say like, turn here or you'll be in traffic for 6 hours?
Yes, ma'am. And those things were discussed. There really wasn't a lot of support for that from THP or GSP. Their experience with actual, hard signs is that it's less effective. Now, what we do have the ability.
Like the light-up signs that change, they're not effective?
No, if we were to deploy hard signs, right, like metal signage and stuff like that at the interstate saying specific things. No, the digital signs is part of the plan.
Okay.
The other part of that is we do have, now I believe this is something that may still be in the works, but I believe CDOT is working on a way so that we can send out that communication through like Waze and Google Maps. And I believe also there may be something that DTS is exploring relative to the actual navigation systems that are inside the 18-wheelers, because that's a separate system. That's the system they use is not, they're not just, now some will use their phones in addition to, but they have their own, their own system inside the cabs of their trucks that they utilize. So they're working on that part as well. That would be the more effective route is, most of us are starting to have become, more akin to looking at your phone and just depending, hey, it knows better than I do, so especially if you're traveling through, then you'll just default to whatever your phone says and that's the way you'll go. So we're hoping that would also, have a better impact. Now, it's not going to impact people who, live in Chattanooga, right? Because I know myself, I know how to get to work a lot faster than my phone does. And most of us are going to be that way. So it would have limited impact from that perspective.
While always traveling the speed limit.
Of course. And wearing your seatbelt.
Little birdie told me something, and I hope it's true, that today might be your birthday.
Oh, my.
I think that Chief Chambers might be 50 years old today.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, happy birthday, sir. That's all.
Councilwoman Burrs was always good to lead us in happy birthday.
That is not necessary, I
If you would like to
I
lead
can do
us.
that, and I'm a terrible singer.
We're good.
I'm a terrible singer. So let's do it. And I'm gonna make it bad. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Chief Chambers. Happy birthday to you.
Your face is as red as I've ever seen it. I've never seen it that red.
That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Please
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. That was priceless. Councilman Ledford.
I don't even know if I can even begin about that. Chief, well, a simple happy birthday, sir. Welcome to the club. The signage, the hard signage came from the sign guy, obviously, when we were talking. But I'm glad to see that you're putting personnel, or we're starting to think about personnel at key locations where we know we have a problem. Obviously, getting off of that interstate and heading back towards the tunnels, coming onto South Broad Street is not conducive to 18-wheelers. And, but, so I want to remind us to please think about that.
Yes, sir.
And I'm glad to see that we're talking about folks, because sometimes we need to put people in place to help curtail the situation. I'm calling it the Lawrence Doster solution. For those of you who grew up here in Chattanooga, know exactly what I'm talking about. Push, pull, tow. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
So, remember that tug? Was it tug, Mayor?
Push, pull, tug, tug.
Push, pull, tug, tow. Thank you. I knew the mayor would be on top of that. So we're going to call that now the Lawrence Doster solution. But in doing that, are we going to how are we going to mechanically get them on site when the situation becomes, are we working through those solutions with Hamilton County Sheriff's Office and also Chattanooga Police?
There's going to be a delay, right, no matter what, but even in that particular wreck, as catastrophic as it was, they were still able to get through the traffic. It took 45 minutes for them to get through the traffic.
Correct.
But that's not what created the overarching issue, right? The 7 hours is what created that. If this particular crash had been a 2-hour crash, if we'd had 45 minutes to get on scene and another hour and 15 or so to push, pull, tug, tow, a mile up the road and get it off, we wouldn't even be talking about it right now. So I don't believe that part of it is going to be as, significant of an issue. We can always do escorts, that stuff that, we have done in the past if we need to help cars get over. And even in this case, after the first, I believe it was 35 minutes, we did have one lane open. That one lane being open is just not good enough.
Very good. Chief, thank you for the follow-up. Chairman, thank you for, we all think about this as we move around Chattanooga, and I'm glad to see that you and your department, along with the mayor's office, you're listening and we're coming up with solutions. So thanks.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Hester?
First of all, happy birthday to you. And thank you for putting a plan in action, not just a plan, but plan A, plan B, plan C, being proactive. Looking forward for that plan being implemented. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, I can't express how thankful I am for you having the integrity to follow up on our Public Safety Committee meeting and come up with some solutions for this problem. And it is so critical to the people out in Lookout Valley, but to people in Chattanooga in general. I mean, lots of people's lives were severely interrupted that day. Thankfully, not, nothing serious, but it could have very well been. But I want to thank you for the way you do your job and for following up and bringing those solutions to us. And I know there will be more to come, and I appreciate that about you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, council, I do need to make one retraction. There will be no Budget and Finance Committee meeting today. Is that correct, Councilman Smith?
We'll do that next week.
We'll do that next week. So I do want to announce our Budget and Finance Committee will be moved to next week. So this evening, all we will have is Affordable Housing Committee. And Madam Vice Chair, after that, we'll recess. We will need an attorney-client privilege, so we'll try to determine how long we need to recess for.
Okay. First, can we call that the Great Corn Dog Incident of 2024? Could that be in our history? Somebody tell Linda Moss Mines. I call the Affordable Housing Committee to order. Can I get a motion on the minutes? Second. Thank you. Council, today we have a presentation on Invest Chattanooga. You all have been read in or shared information and feedback with the administration on this, but today we want to bring it formally in front of council for consideration. So I'd like to welcome up our Chief Housing Officer, Nicole Heyman, to talk us through it.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Before I begin with my brief presentation, I think Mayor Kelly wanted to say a few words, so I'll turn it to him first.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I've got a plane to catch, so I'll keep this much briefer than I had planned to keep it. But look, I really appreciate y'all's consideration today. As you well know, back in the '23 budget, you made an unprecedented $33 million investment in affordable housing, $20 million of which was always meant to go towards this revolving loan fund. And today, we're requesting your authorization to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Invest Chattanooga to transfer those funds and begin putting capital to work. To my knowledge, we're only the third or fourth community in the country that's been able to do this, and this is really an innovative and key tool to help get affordable housing projects to market, and something we can all be proud of. I can tell you from talking to other mayors around the country that I think we've done as much or more than any community in the country to support the creation of affordable housing, which again is just now really beginning to come through the pipeline. So, thank you to Nicole and Hanukkah and the entire team, and Skip and Matt and, the organization that we brought together to run and administer Invest Chattanooga is really a fantastic team. So I appreciate your support, and I will turn it over to Nicole to tell you more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, council members.
Good afternoon.
Over the past 2 years, we've made significant strides in expanding our affordable housing ecosystem. From the housing pilot to voluntary incentives to the new zoning code, we have steadily added tools to our affordable housing toolkit. Today, I'm proud to present Invest Chattanooga as the latest and perhaps the most critical addition to that toolkit. Grounded in public-private partnerships, this initiative will finance mixed-income housing without relying on oversubscribed federal programs like CDBG and LIHTC. It is an opportunity to reimagine housing production in Chattanooga. I'd like to express my gratitude to City Council and to Mayor Kelly for your support. Mayor Kelly's vision and leadership has been essential to this effort, and I am grateful for his trust in our team to deliver an innovative and impactful solution. And I want to thank Council. You have provided unwavering support to me and my team over the past 2 years, and you've given us the freedom and time to make sure that we get this fund right. We have developed a true public-private partnership that works for Chattanooga. This is a pivotal moment. Today, the administration is seeking your approval to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Invest Chattanooga, authorizing the transfer of the $20 million that was set aside for this program several years ago. As soon as that is made by your decision, then we will be able to start deploying funds for affordable housing through Invest Chattanooga. By approving this step, you're taking a bold action to address our affordable housing crisis and ensure opportunities for all Chattanoogans. I want to thank you for your continued partnership and commitment to this very, very important cause. I'm going to turn it over to Hanukkah Van Dersen to make a quick presentation on Invest Chattanooga. But before I do that, I want to thank Hanukkah for your unwavering support in getting us from a dream to a reality. It took a lot of work, and it has been your leadership and your support that has gotten us here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, and good afternoon, council members. Thanks for the opportunity here to give a little more detail on how this program is going to work. The Housing Production Fund is designed to provide construction loans to development projects, replacing the need for a private equity investor. Once a development is built and fully leased, it can be refinanced under much better terms because the risk of construction has passed. At that point, the fund's capital is pulled out and replaced by a loan from a mission-oriented investor. The funds return to Invest Chattanooga, ready to be reinvested in the next project. While there are many types of revolving loan funds out there for affordable housing, most revolve on a 30-year timeline. This is what sets our fund apart. By leveraging partnerships with impact investors, our $20 million fund can be reinvested 6 times in the same period. That means more permanently affordable housing and more shovels in the ground. Invest Chattanooga builds on our city's strong tradition of public-private partnerships, mobilizing the private sector's capacity to deliver long-term public benefits. Invest Chattanooga is a purpose-built public enterprise. It was created to partner with the private sector, financing mixed-income housing and developing public land. Invest Chattanooga is structured as a nonprofit subsidiary of the Chattanooga Housing Authority, but it's financially independent and operationally independent with its own board and its own CEO. The intergovernmental agreement before you today includes significant guidelines to ensure accountability and oversight. Board meetings are open to the public, and annual audits and reports will be shared with the City Council. What's particularly exciting about this approach is the affordability. 20% of units will be affordable to households earning 50% of the area median income, or $17 an hour. Another 10% will be affordable to households earning between 50 and 100% AMI, and the rents there will be calibrated to maximize affordable units while ensuring that buildings are financially self-sufficient and of high quality. The remainder will be market rate units, providing essential workforce housing for our teachers, nurses, and others. This program is a local solution. It does not rely on any external federal subsidies, so it won't compete for or hoard those limited resources. And unlike federal housing programs, these units will remain permanently affordable, delivering benefits to Chattanooga for decades to come. So at this time, I'd like to invite Invest Chattanooga board member Skip Schwartz up to the podium.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Skip Schwartz, and I am honored to speak briefly to you today, having been asked to serve on the board of Invest Chattanooga. At this time, I would like to acknowledge and introduce my fellow board members, Edna Varner, Nicole Heyman, Adam Kinsey,
Mayor.
and Matt Phillips. Thank you. It is an honor to be a part of this exciting, pioneering, and impactful new initiative in Chattanooga. As a proud fourth-generation resident, I am personally excited that this position will afford me the chance to combine my love of seeing Chattanooga grow and do bold things with my 28-year global real estate investment career, coupled with my passion for finding ways to address the need for affordable housing. I'm looking forward to leveraging the perspectives I bring from my vast experience in real estate transactions, alongside the insight and experience of my fellow board members and the staff of Invest Chattanooga and the city's housing office to advance our local affordable housing goals. While I know you've heard a lot about this program, I just want to reinforce that Invest Chattanooga represents an exciting opportunity to use catalytic capital in a trailblazing way to align public sector priorities, private sector innovation, and philanthropic impact in developing affordable residential communities that provide and align with a long-term goal to the growth of Chattanooga. Thank you, and I'd like to turn it back over to Nicole.
Thank you very much. That concludes our presentation, but if anyone has questions, we are happy to answer.
Okay, we do have some. Councilwoman Dotley.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Nicole, great job. Excited about this project. I just had a couple of questions.
Sure.
The first, within the intergovernmental agreement in the collaborative guidelines, it stated that there will be a development team. So with that team, once the team is selected, because the director of Invest Chattanooga will select that team or go through the board, or however that process goes, how will they engage local, minority, women-owned, veteran business enterprises to participate and be builders within this?
Absolutely. So we will be issuing letters of interest for developers from across Chattanooga to come to Invest Chattanooga to bring projects. And so there will be intentional engagement in the community. The housing office, Hanukkah and Megan and I have been putting together a really robust list of local minority and women-owned businesses that are in the housing business. So we will share that list with Invest Chattanooga and make sure that as we do our marketing to the public, that we are intentional about including those folks in any opportunity that that we advertise.
Yeah, so I do appreciate that. You know, I know you do that, but it's good to put it out there.
Absolutely.
Put it out here on the record. The other question I have is regarding, this deals with public land. Is that correct?
Right now, we don't have any public land that has been brought to the board. We haven't even had a board meeting yet, but at this point, no, there is not public land on the table. This is simply a transfer of the funding that was allocated several years ago. It could be an opportunity in the future, but right now, there's no public land involved.
Okay. All right, and if there were, I'm going to ask anyway, how would this impact the land bank? I know are we working toward a land bank at this point?
And I think that there's two avenues for how we would invest in public land. The land bank right now is only looking at mobilizing the inventory of infill lots that have been foreclosed on through the tax process. So it's really single-family infill opportunities, perhaps up to 6 or 10 units. Invest Chattanooga is really a bigger game than that, right? So Invest Chattanooga is looking at more sweet spot for larger multifamily development, could also be for home ownership. But right now, what we have in the inventory for the land bank really doesn't fit the model for Invest Chattanooga. So we at the city will continue to partner with the land bank to make possible funding available for the folks that win the bids for those properties if there's gap that needs to be filled.
Okay, thank you so much. And will there be any deed restrictions for the properties in Invest Chattanooga?
Yes, absolutely. Hanukkah can speak in depth to those, but very high level, I will say that for those properties that are 50% AMI required, which would be 20% of those, and the 10% at above 50% AMI, those will be in perpetuity. And as the structure of Invest Chattanooga has been put together, Invest Chattanooga not only finances, but ends up with full ownership of these properties, which in partnership with the Housing Authority then allows us to ensure that those properties that are affordable maintain affordability in perpetuity.
Okay. And my last question, I promise, is I know that your team has been working diligently with Madam Vice Chair to really build out our housing policy and procedures and incentives and things of that nature. So will people be able to layer all the things? So we did the housing pilot policies a few months ago. The volunteer incentive program is on the agenda, I believe either today or next week. And then now we have this new Invest Chattanooga. So will developers be able to layer those things to produce maybe a extremely cost-effective product?
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything that we have developed should be working in synergy together with layering ability so that if we have a project that needs additional subsidy or more density, we would be able to bring in the pilot or the zoning incentives. So yes, this is intended to be one more tool in the toolkit that allows us to get to the required affordability.
Okay, that works. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank
you so much, Hanukkah. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
That's
Councilmember
it, Madam
Dolly.
Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicole, I want to say thank you for the time that we spent. For those of you who are hearing about this for the very first time, Council's been aware of this program for quite a while and have had an opportunity to meet individually. Nicole and I met for quite some time, and we discussed quite a few things. The first being an emphasis on local participation. I love the fact that we're not leaning into a LIHTC solution for affordable housing, but we're turning and looking at the options that are available within. And I think that's not only responsible, but it's the way, it's the Chattanooga way, so to speak. We're finding our own way through this, is what I'm trying to say. Will you talk a little bit, though, about the sustainability? We got into some detail during our meeting about the sustainability of the fund, which allows it to grow and also remains its core strength.
Absolutely. The fund sustainability comes from being able to make investments swiftly and quickly at the speed of business, and also to have the vision for there to be a way for that fund to recover its initial investment at lease up after the construction period, once that property is stabilized. This will be in partnership with lending institutions, philanthropy, other investors who will come in after the initial investment. And what that allows is for Invest Chattanooga to continuously be investing, seeing those investments come to fruition, see them leased up, get their money back out of that investment, and then make the next investment. So unlike your traditional long-term housing revolving funds, which usually require an investment for the 30-year period that the affordability requirements are placed on those properties, Invest Chattanooga's model is very different, and it allows us to very quickly, within 3 to 5 years, recapture that investment so we can go on making more.
Which was an exciting point on the cusp of inviting local participation, even down to smaller levels. I know I had expressed an interest in finding ways for all Chattanoogans and Hamilton County residents to find a way. I'm sure we won't turn away anybody who wants to invest, but being able to participate in our own solution. Now that I found innovative. I found
Absolutely.
that creative, and I appreciate that because I feel like we've worked through and working with council in our initial programs that we reviewed, and I feel like we've together worked through something. And what I would be remiss to mention, you've got a really, really talented board of directors. I don't know if everybody's familiar with this board. These are some pretty heavy hitters. And I really appreciate you, each and every one of you, spending your time and your talents in this effort. I think that speaks volumes of what we've been able to do here and speaks volumes of our leadership. So, Chairwoman, thank you very much for allowing me to say a few words about my experience through this and the questions. I could go on for about another hour, but Nicole's going to cut me off. Nicole, thank you for a creative solution.
Thank you. Thank you for your partnership.
Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
I love the push to add additional tools into our toolkit for housing. But like I shared last week, is that my concern for our housing is that we have a lot of affordable housing because it is what it is. And we have to start talking about what it truly means. We got enough of affordable housing. It's whoever can afford in that area. But for my constituents, when they hear the word affordable housing, they automatically think I'm being displaced, right? Because the need for housing is around supportive housing or subsidized housing, income-restricted housing, all those housing tools that they put in place that they say help people towards upward mobility, but actually keep those individuals in poverty. So the people that we don't get the opportunity to provide housing for is the 0% to the 49%. This plan here, a lot of our employees that work for the city wouldn't even be able to be housed. Those that work over at OFE, our chain breakers that's working in our community. When I think of housing, I'm thinking about those individuals too that need to be housed. Also, it talks about nothing around housing as far as people that have background challenges, right? We know we have the eviction prevention program that every day, and I know you've been at that courthouse too, but every day you have people on the docket in the hundreds that's losing housing for anything, any reason, because they was late one month, they was $25 short, because something happened and got put on their background. It's those kind of issues, those social issues, that's preventing a lot of people in Chattanooga from being housed. It's not really the affordability of it. For me, it continue to keep marginalized people displaced. It continues to keep marginalized, disadvantaged people in poverty. And I just have concerns about it. You know, every year, every other year, we come and lay out a great plan around affordable housing, but it's not reaching the people that really need to be housed. It's my hope that eventually we can really dig deep to the roots of it and really house or create a plan that's going to capture the need for all Chattanoogans, because we're leaving a lot of people out, right? And hopefully that our state legislator will get on board for having inclusionary zones. That would most definitely be helpful to help the housing situation here in Chattanooga. But again, thank you for the plan. I hear the mayors cry about how we need to be supportive. The $20 million before that, it was $1 million before that, and now it's $20 million, so it has increased. So I'm looking forward to see, like my colleague said, like how we will attract Black investors to be a part of this and really get them a seat at the table, and not just extending the seat at the table just to get their ideas.
Right.
And implementing it into the plan. I've seen that done several times. However, they're not really given the opportunity, or they bid on it or make proposals, but they're still being overlooked. And that's an issue within itself too. But again, thank you. I appreciate the work that you all are doing to add additional tools.
Thank you. Thank you for your insights. I appreciate them very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got the board cleared, so I just want to say a couple things. First, Councilwoman Coonrod has shed light in the last 2 weeks on our lower AMI citizens. And can you all tell us, please, for a single-person household, what is 50% AMI? What is that income? What is the income for a person making 50% of our area median income annually?
So 50% AMI for a two-person household is $35,000 a year, and it averages roughly $17 an hour.
So to unpack that a little bit more, if a two-person family is making $35,000 a year, they can afford to spend 30% of their income on their housing and utilities. So that is just a smidge over or under $1,000, right? So 10,000 divided by 12, $800 a month, give or take. So this tool, adding to our toolkit, is the first tool that we have that guarantees housing at 50% AMI as part of the development package, correct?
Correct.
Because our pilot tool offers that, but what we know is that you have to get to a point where you can afford, as a landlord or building owner, to provide a rent at $800. Well, and really it would be $700 a month because you've got to allow for utilities, right? So I appreciate what Councilwoman Coonrod is saying, and I do want to further make the point that this is beginning to get lower into our AMI. And I'm of the opinion that if we look at a spectrum of 100% AMI, area median income, to 0% area median income, that there are different roles that different organizations can and should play. And as I see it, 0 to 30% is the role of the Chattanooga Housing Authority. And for us as a city, we need to be really pressing into what does it look like 31% to 80% AMI? How can we play in that space? And so we're headed that way. Then to offer the private sector opportunities to get involved at 80% AMI to 120% area median income is appropriate. So we all need to be part of this. But I would also add that providing opportunities for attainable housing at all income levels is an important part of a thriving economy. So too are trained workers ready to make more money, right? Because if you're two people and you're making $35,000 a year, it's going to be hard to find anything anywhere, right? So affordable housing is not in and of itself a panacea for all of humanity's ills. But it is a very important part of having a healthy community. We've said enough. I have many other questions, but we talk all the time. So that is all we have for the Affordable Housing Committee. Chairman, how much time would you like to recess? It is 4:34.
Let's recess to 5:15.
Okay, we will recess to 5:15. Thank you all.
Thank you.